I would recognize the member from Little Bow.
Well, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. It's truly an honor. I rise in the chamber today to deliver my maiden speech, as we've heard ladies and gentlemen across the floor and on this side do very good jobs and such. It's truly an honor to have been elected to the Legislative Assembly of Alberta. The spring election of 2015 was an election that was not expected. As such, a couple of the parties were not quite ready for the event. A poor showing was expected by many, but as per the outcome, it became clear on May 5th that those that were not expected to be able to put forth a strong showing indeed were able to demonstrate to this province that hard work really does pay off. And I mean that sincerely as a reflection of both sides of the House. In my own riding, I don't remember the girl in the back row, what the name of her riding was, but she had a very close race. In my own, there was less than a dozen votes, actually 8, that separated me from the incumbent. When I arrived in Edmonton to my first caucus meeting, I was promptly given the nickname Landslide by our House leader. What the outcome really did confirm for me as my fellow MLA, that every vote counts. Mr. Speaker, I have congratulated you on your position and your election to that position personally, but I did want to say publicly that I congratulate you. Many well-respected folks have accepted the job of Speaker, several from my riding, and I'm sure you will be as fair and impartial as any of those that came before you. Her Honour, the Honourable Lieutenant Governor, in her throne speech of June 15th of 2015, neglected to mention agriculture in that speech. The March 8th throne speech of this year mentioned the word agriculture once, and that was a general comment about the government setting out plans to build on strengths in our economy, including the agriculture industry. I look forward to seeing what those plans will be to build on the strengths of this industry that has provided so much to Alberta. I just want to be real clear, Mr. Speaker, with respect. Agriculture has been a key industry in what would become Alberta since the 1870s. Short of the fur trade, as Canada opened up the West, agriculture was for decades in this province the #1 export industry. Those exports being wheat and beef. It's an industry that I hold dear and an industry that has contributed to the gross domestic product of Alberta in a huge way over the years. My maiden speech today will focus on an area in this province that is special to me. I was born and raised in the southern portion of Alberta, and I'm proud to speak about that area in the House today. I think it's fair to say that Alberta is a province that was built by, shall we say, wave after wave of pioneers and settlers. As a member of the Little Bow riding, I can attest to that fact. As the railway came westward, these pioneers and settlers founded the communities inside my rural constituency. As a matter of fact, my grandfather sailed across an ocean from Scotland to come to this new land. He arrived in eastern Canada in 1904. He promptly got himself a job on the Canadian Pacific Railway and worked his way across Canada in that capacity. In 1908, he arrived in a very new province called Alberta, and he settled on a quarter section of land 2 miles away from a very small community called Maiden, about 30 miles east of the town of Vulcan. He paid $10 to the province of Alberta for that quarter section, and he homesteaded it, which meant breaking 20 acres, fencing the quarter, and building a shelter. No small feat, while using horses and in what would be considered today ancient primitive pieces of equipment and sheer manpower. He proved up and received the adjoining quarter section for his efforts 2 years later. Would you like me to stop?
Honourable Member, I hesitate, particularly since it is your maiden speech, to interrupt. However, I am required under a standing order to interrupt. Please proceed, Honourable Member from Little Bow.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the member that has given me another chance here. In every corner of my riding, Mr. Speaker, similar stories can be told, like the one I just reiterated. Those settlers broke the ground, tilled it, and turned my constituency into a picturesque agricultural Garden of Eden, a landscape that today produces all manner of foodstuffs, that being wheat, canola, barley, oats, sugar beets, potatoes, beef, pork, chicken, eggs, and dairy. Those same producers and their offspring were charged with setting up secondary processes for the very commodities that they were creating. As a result, the Little Bow riding relies on a good highway and railway network, good rural roads and bridges in order to move those commodities to markets around the globe. Without that crisscrossing grid of infrastructure, the residents of my constituency that are charged with feeding the world would be hard-pressed to produce the products that they do and get them to market. Right now, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge a well-known area of southern Alberta which resides within the Little Bow riding, which has been given the nickname of Feedlot Alley. This area, which, because of naturally occurring Chinook winds which produce milder winters than other areas of the province and allow a better feed conversion rate, is home to over 2.3 million cattle. 60% of all Canada's beef is finished in this area. This industry creates its own economy that requires grains and roughages and supplements and manpower to finish those cattle for market to be shipped not only to Canadians, but to markets all over the world. Little Bow was also blessed with energy resources early on. Coal was discovered upon the arrival of the pioneers, and mining of this combustible black sedimentary rock, which revealed itself in seams and beds and veins, and eventually became the largest source of energy for the generation of electricity in this young province, was being discovered and excavated throughout many areas of my riding. The names of communities were closely tied to the discoveries of vast stores of the mineral, communities like Coaldale and Colehurst. Just south of where I live, there is a 10 or 12 mile stretch of road named the Coal Mine Road, for obvious reasons. Along that stretch are several small coal reserves that pioneers of the area mined many years ago. The product was sold to folks that traveled by horse and wagon for a load of the precious heating fuel from areas a day's ride away. Coal Banks, today's Lethbridge, which does not make up part of but is surrounded by the Little Bow constituency, has been home to generations of those that pioneered the land around her, and home to the services required by those that live within her, and home to the services required by many that still occupy the same lands of those that came so long ago. Drift mining of coal led to the development of Lethbridge. Nicholas Sharon and Sir Alexander Galt were early entrepreneurs of the market of coal from that area. Along with coal, other energy resources were discovered. Oil and natural gas became a large industry in my riding in the early 60s. After the discovery at Leduc No. 1 in 1947, an eruption of exploration around the province made our home a true success story. Like many rural ridings in Alberta, Little Bow is home to the two top industries within our provincial boundaries, energy and agriculture. The villages and towns that grew up within the areas that were settled as a result of rail running west in my riding are vast. They include Coaldale, Colehurst, Picture Butte, Nobleford, Barrens, Vauxhall, Carmangate, Champion, Lomond, Vulcan, Milo, and Arrowwood. These are all places that pioneers of all types gathered to do business. This in turn gave opportunity for more businesses to begin. General stores, implement sales, blacksmiths, pool rooms and dance halls, barber shops, taxi services, restaurants, doctors, lawyers, banks and schools all began the century-long growth of Alberta. They've certainly been tough times, weather on the farming and ranching side and economy on the town and village side, but residents of Little Bow, no matter their chosen vocation, have persevered and stayed on to proudly build a portion of this great province. a testament of the values passed on by those original pioneers. But that testament also applies to the new settlers and Canadian citizens who can also be considered pioneers in Alberta. These are the citizens that continue to add to the rich tapestry and diversity of this province in their own right. Quoting from Her Honour the Lieutenant Governor's throne speech, we are optimistic, entrepreneurial, can-do people that are community-minded, caring, and neighbourly. Those words describe the people of the riding of Little Bow very well and honour the people that came before us. While talking about my riding, I need to mention politics of the past. Little Bow is proud of the people that it has sent to the Legislative Assembly. In 1913, James McNaughton as a Liberal candidate. In 1921, Oren McPherson as a United Farmers of Alberta candidate. Mr. McPherson was the Speaker from 1922 to 1926. In 1935, Peter Dawson for the Social Credit. Mr. Dawson is still the longest-serving Speaker in Alberta history from 1937 to 1963. In 1963, Mr. Raymond Speaker for the Social Credit Party. Mr. Speaker also was elected as an independent, a representative, and finally a progressive conservative in his 29-year tenure. In 1992, Barry McFarland for the Progressive Conservatives. Barry served until 2012. Little Bow chose Ian Donovan, a Wild Rose candidate, in 2012, and the results of the 2015 election are fresh in our minds. As I wind down my maiden speech to this Assembly, I wish to recognize the Siksika Nation constituents located on the northern edge of my riding. The people of this proud area are descendants of the first known inhabitants. The present population of the Siksika Nation is near 7,000. The community has facilities such as the Deerfoot Sportsplex, the Old Sun Community College, a provincial courthouse, police station, and emergency services, elementary and high schools, and the Blackfoot Crossing Historic Park, where Treaty Number 7 was signed on September 22nd, 1877. As a matter of fact, my colleague isn't here, but my colleague from Strathmore Brooks and I are working at setting up a visit with the elders of the Siksika Nation this summer, and for me, a highly anticipated, personalized visit to Blackfoot Crossing, where the respected Chief Crowfoot, who was instrumental in the signing of Treaty Number 7, is buried. Just a few hundred feet to the west of my home, Mr. Speaker, on the edge of a coulee which is a tributary to the West Arrowwood Creek, are 5 teepee rings. This small piece of land has never been broken and looks as it would have hundreds of years ago. Before there were fences and farms and towns and railroads, the nomadic Blackfoot people traveled all directions of this area for major tribal ceremonies. These rocks in circular formation that were touched by the hands of those that came before us will not be disturbed in my lifetime. I'm proud to have a part of history that is so close to my home and will protect it. Excuse me. And so, Mr. Speaker, with all of the history of the Little Bow riding, indeed of every riding within our glorious province, we have now begun the second session of the 29th Legislature of Alberta. 87 people have been sent to this hallowed chamber to conduct the business of the people. They've been sent here as a representative. We are charged with debating the issues that are put before us on behalf of those people. We are charged with making laws that the people of Alberta must live by. We are charged with taking the ideas and concerns of those that sent us here and bringing them forth within these walls for strong discussion and resolution. I can't express how much it means to me and my family to be a part of the 29th Legislature, how much it means to be the 895th member of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta, to be sworn, and the 7th MLA of the great riding of Little Bow. And I'm positive, Mr. Speaker, that every elected soul within this room, no matter what political stripe, garner those same feelings. Ladies and gentlemen of the Assembly, I respect each of you and those that sent you here. Let us begin this session. We have begun. I wrote this a few days ago, so. With healthy debate in a process of good and honest government, the kind of government that the people of Alberta can be proud of. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.